Welcome to Authentic Church. We're so glad you're joining us for this message. We hope it blesses you. Don't forget to hit subscribe to stay up to date with all our latest sermons. Come on, let's get in.
I wonder if you would go with me back to the book of Genesis. We all know the creation story, right? God, He makes the heavens, He makes the earth, He makes animals, birds, fish, He makes the land, He makes the sky, all of it. And then He makes man and says, it is very good. Here's man and woman, and they are going to dwell in my presence as it should be. I loving them, them loving me in perfect relationship. But then the serpent gets into the ear of Eve and says, did God really intend for you to be like this? God placed the tree of the knowledge of good and evil and the tree of life into the garden. The serpent says, just eat the fruit and then you can be like God. And so she does. And she gets Adam and says, here, have this fruit. The serpent told me it would make us like God. And so they eat of the fruit, and all of a sudden they gain the full weight of what it means to know good from evil. And in that moment, we've chosen for ourselves to decide what is right and what is wrong. That is the choice that we make every single day, and it is the decision that removes us from where God intended us to be. God never intended us to be the one who decides right from wrong. Because of our limitations as human beings, I exist right here and now. I am bound by time. I am bound by the influences of the world around me. God never intended that we should be the ones who decide what is right and what is wrong. He was meant to be the one who shows us the way because He knows a little bit better than us. But in our greed and in our lust for power, we made a decision, we want to have that for ourselves. And we have removed ourselves from God. And we make that choice every single day. And so it is out of that decision that our world is formed. The structures of power, the way society works, the habits, the systems, all of it, the way that we are brought up. The world has formed because we have decided we know what's best. We don't need to ask God. If I just do it my way, everything will be the way it should be. The world, it has mechanisms that have been developed by the human selfishness and greed that is the core of our spirit. We choose it every day of our lives. You don't have to teach a baby to take something that it wants, even if it's not theirs. You don't have to teach a toddler to lie to their parents if they've done the wrong thing. They just want to get out of trouble. You don't have to teach human beings to look out for number one. There is something within us that is innately selfish. And at first glance, it seems like it's not that bad. Yeah, you should look out for number one. I'll look out for mine, you look out for yours, everything will be sweet. And so we build up these mechanisms of how we should live. Over time, they develop into power and greed and deception and all of the stuff that corrupts humanity. And they are built into the fabric of how our world exists, because at the end of the day, the systems we've got in place, at some point, a human had influence over them. And human beings, we're flawed. And we make mistakes, and we're greedy, and we're lustful, and we're selfish. And so these power systems cannot be perfect because the ones who made them weren't. And so you have this system built up over time, and God says, here, I want my people to be better. I want them to be different. And so He raises up the nation of Israel and says, I want you to be set apart, but because of human flaws, Israel can't hack it. So God allows them to be taken over. And then they get reestablished as a nation. They split apart. They get taken over again. They get reestablished and back and forth until eventually it's like God says, this is a mess. You'll keep walking away from my presence. And so He sends someone who can step into the gap for us. And we look into the times of Jesus and we see people are greedy. People want power. People have power over other people. They're abusing the things that they have been put in place. And here's Jesus coming into something that on your first glance seems right. Look after mine, you look after yours, will be good. And Jesus says, no, I want you to love the person that hates you. Anyone can love the person that loves them. And here's Jesus saying, I want you to love someone who hates you. If someone tells you to carry their things for a mile, I want you to carry it for 2. If someone slaps you, you have to turn the other cheek. And it doesn't make sense because you've got 3,000 years of history leading up to how things have been established. Rome is in power. The Pharisees have authority over the scripture, over the temple. People are subjugated. People are left into poverty. People are not living the way God intended to. And so here's Jesus saying, there's a better way. And he invites us to go on that journey with him. This is the climate that Paul is writing out of. There is a natural way that our flesh pulls us towards. And Jesus, he has called us to live to something more. And when we make a decision to follow Jesus, there has to become a divide in the things that were from the things that are. See, the Bible tells us there is a war between the flesh and the spirit. Between the things of this reality and the things of the one to come. And the Bible tells us that our spirit cries out for the Father. It cries out for the things of heaven. But our flesh pulls us back. It stops us from actually being able to step into where God called us to be. There is a war between the flesh and between the spirit. And when we make a decision to follow Christ, we can't sit on the fence anymore. We can't say we're going to follow Jesus, follow the ways of the Spirit, but then still have the mechanisms of the flesh. See, the thing is, we can say we want to follow Jesus, but we've still got all the baggage from life. Maybe it's from the way your parents raised you. Maybe it's from the poverty that you grew up in. Maybe it's the friends around you. Maybe someone abused you and you've got trauma. There's something that has set you up to have habits and systems and addictions into the way you live out your life. It affects the way you make decisions. It affects the way you have relationships. It affects the way you speak and think about others. And so when we come to the foot of the cross, when we come to the point where we're like, all right, Jesus, I want to follow you. We've still got that stuff that's on us. And what we have to do is we have to make a decision that from this point forward, no longer am I going to be allowing it to affect me. We can't bring our baggage into a relationship with Christ. And if we try and hold on to it too much, we are going to limit what the Father can do in our spirit. I remember talking to this one girl, came to church, wanted to follow Jesus with all her heart, but said, I can't let go of my friends. I need them. They need me. They're loyal. They're my day ones. They're my ride or dies. The problem is these friends were not a good influence on this girl. And they were actively trying to stop her from pursuing Jesus. Why are you following him? Why are you going to church? Why are you doing all this? And unfortunately, the pull of her friends started to get stronger and stronger. And then I remember 6 months down the track, I speak to her and she's like, everything's going wrong. I don't know why. I feel like I don't know where God is in my life. And I remember talking to her about how we have to make a decision at some point to cleave off the things of our old life. 1 John 2:15 says this, do not love the world or anything in the world. If anyone loves the world, love for the Father is not in them. You can't say with your mouth, I want to follow Jesus, then all your actions say something different. Making a decision to follow Christ isn't just about the moments where you feel good after a sermon on a Sunday morning. It's about making a decision that I want to change my old ways. And so Paul in Romans is saying, when you make a decision to follow Christ, you should not be following the ways of the world anymore. You can't be copying the behaviors and the customs and the systems of the world. You have to allow God to change who you are. When we follow Jesus, we have to make a choice. Am I going to let the flesh control me? Or am I going to step into the things of the Spirit? And you can't sit on the fence about it. It says it right there in 1 John. The Bible tells us you can't serve both God and mammon. You can't serve God and the world. You can't serve God and your own selfish desires. You can't serve God and want to uphold what your friends think about you. There has to come a point where you have to pick a side of the fence. You can't sit in both worlds and expect there to be something that changes. We can't keep going with the systems of the world, the behaviors, the patterns of the world, and expect things to change. And so what we have to do as a human being, someone who makes a decision to follow Christ, we have to make a decision. Let go of the things of the past. Let go of what it has been and step into what is to come. And it can be hard. Don't get me wrong, it can be very hard because what the world has seems enticing. We can get you money quick if you'll just do these things. You can have all the girls you want. You can live life any way you desire, and there's no consequences. What you want to be true is truth about you. It seems enticing, but the thing about the world is all the world can offer is the things on this side of eternity. Things that are good in the now, but bad in the future. At the end of the day, there will come a day where it all gets packed up. And all the world can offer is things that are temporary because the world only has dominion over the world. The Bible tells us that the world has been handed over to the authority of Satan by our own desires. But God still has dominion in the Spirit. God still has the authority and the power in the Spirit. And so all the devil, all the world can offer you is something in the here and now. Be selfish. Be greedy, be lustful, go after the things of your own heart, listen to your own mind, all of that sort of thing. And all it does is get you something in the short term at the expense of the forever. I mean, if Satan can try and tempt Jesus in the wilderness, we think that we're not going to have to deal with the stuff in the flesh. We have to make a decision. Do we step into the things of this world, the things that are temporary, because they will all fade. You might get power now. You might get money now. You might have a good relationship now. You might do whatever you need, right? But at some point it will end. Maybe you'll make a bad decision in 5 years. Maybe it'll be 10. Maybe you'll make it your whole life with money and power and fame and greed and all of it. But the one thing none of us have figured out how to beat is death. That's on Jesus. And you can have all the things in the world, but you can't take it with you. You can have all the riches in the entire world, all the popularity and the fame in the entire world, but you can't take it with you. And maybe you get famous enough that your name's written in history and people remember you after you're gone. But there's going to come a day where this entire earth is restored, is packed up. God says, let me take it back to where we're going, to what I intended it to be. And all things will pass from memory. Your fame won't mean much in the glory of God. All we have is what God has promised us, what God has said. And when we die and when the world comes to the second coming of Jesus Christ and we all stand before the Lord, He's going to say, what did you do with the things that I promised you? The things that I called you to. And we can either build up our treasures there and then have nothing to show for it on the other side, or we can make a decision. I can deny my flesh and step into where God has called me, because trust me, it'll work out a whole lot better on this side of the fence than the flesh side. But we have to make a choice. We have to change the way we do things. We make a decision to follow Christ. We can't carry our old ways of living into a new relationship with God. And so what does Paul tell us to do? Do not conform, but be transformed by the renewal of your mind. Transformed. We have to change the way we do things. And so I want to challenge you with this. Everything in your life should be subject to the changing of the Father. And if there is something in your life that you think doesn't need changing, maybe it's time to go back and check again. Because there is nothing in our life that is too precious that we can't give it to God. There should be nothing that we are holding on to that cannot and will not be subject to God's authority. We have to be transformed in the Spirit. Not just with our mouth, but the way we do things. You know where the word transform comes from in the Bible? The word they use is metamorpheste. It's a Greek word. And it means to be completely changed from the inside out. It's kind of like a caterpillar turning into a butterfly. You know what happens when they do that? Well, if you don't know, what a caterpillar does, right? It eats and it eats and eats, and then eventually it says, all right, time for me to change. I'm going to make a cocoon, and I'm going to sit there. And so it wraps itself in this watertight cocoon. And it stays there. And inside the cocoon, this caterpillar is not just sitting there. It's not growing wings. Its entire body is breaking down. I looked it up. It's crazy. Over the period of about 2 weeks, this caterpillar, its body starts to break down until eventually all that's left inside the cocoon is this biological life caterpillar butterfly soup. Everything breaks down for it to then start making a new body that is the butterfly. Crazy, right? I always thought that it was like, oh, butterfly goes inside, gains some antenna, gains some wings, and then it's sweet. Now everything gets broken down, basically starting from scratch to build up what it was originally intended to be. And it is the same with our life. When we make a decision to follow God, we're not just doing things on the external. We have to break everything down until all we have left is to start from where God intended us to be. Everything we have, our systems, our habits, our ways of thinking, our addictions, our relationships, our mindsets, everything has to be broken down and say, okay, God, what do you want to do with this? We have to start from fresh. Not just keep trudging along with our old ways of living. We have to take it back to one and say, God, build me up the way you intended me to be. We have to transform ourselves completely. And I want you to catch what it says. It doesn't say transform. It says be transformed. It's a passive thing. You can't do it yourself because it's the same thing that got us here. We're flawed. We make mistakes. We're messed up because we're human. And so it's not a thing we have to try and fight our way into transformation. I have to address this, then address this, and address this. No. We have to allow God to transform us by allowing Him into every single area of our life. I think that's the thing that gets real hard for people to do. Because if I'm doing something, I can do that. I've decided I'm going to do this. I'm going to get rid of my addiction. I'm going to be nicer to people. The action is not what we are trying to address. We have to allow God in and say, okay, God, change my heart. God, have your way within me. And then the outcome comes out of it. But so often we get caught up trying to address the external, trying to put out the spot fires, that we forget we actually have to allow God into everything within us. The things that nobody knows about. The things that you thought you'd buried and forgotten about. The things that will never come up in conversation. Your deepest, darkest secrets, God still knows, and He says, I want to set you free. I want to change you for the better. You just have to let me in. We have to be transformed by allowing God to step into our lives. 1 Corinthians 3:18 says this, and we all who with unveiled faces contemplate the Lord's glory are being transformed into His image with ever-increasing joy, which comes from the Lord who is the Spirit. Your transformation ain't going to come from you. And so let me set you free of trying to do it yourself. Your transformation can't come from you because the only one who can transform us is God. The only one who is beyond our capacity is God. Beyond our mess, outside of it, bigger than it, is God. And so in order for the whole thing to change, we have to let the one who is beyond it step in and do it. We are being transformed, and I find it interesting, right? Here's in 1 Corinthians, Paul's talking about, we are being transformed with ever-increasing joy. It is a joyous thing that we get to have our life changed. How good is it that the God of the universe cares enough that he would know me and my issues? That he would do life with me enough that I can be changed. I count it every joy when I have to change something in my life, because it means the God of the universe loves me and sees me and knows me. It's real easy to get stuck and not let God in because it can be painful. Right? It can be painful to dig up the trauma, the thing that happened to you when you were a kid. It can be painful to have to talk about, pray about, bring something to God that we thought we'd never have to think about again. But God wants to start us from new. He wants to clean up everything. And so we have to let him into everything. And so when we face the short-term pain, I have to dig up the trauma of what my dad did to me. I have to dig up the trauma of the financial breakdown I had in my marriage. When we have to dig it up, yeah, it might be a little bit painful in the moment, but trust me, it is a good thing, and God will make it better than you could have ever done yourself. And so we count it every blessing when we are transformed. We are transformed with ever-increasing joy. Why? Because we can know that God works all things for good. And so as we are being changed, as we are being called to higher, to more, we can know that it works out for good. Might be a stretch. Might be beyond what you think is possible within your life. You might think you're too far gone. Trust me, you're not. God can still work in your life. And he wants to change your life for the better. All you have to do is allow him in. How are we transformed? It's by changing from the inside. What does it say in Romans 12? Transform who you are by the what? The renewing of your mind, by the changing of the way you think. If you get caught up trying to address the symptom, then the original cause still has the room to grow and grow and grow and grow and grow. If we don't get to the root of it, then we can't actually change. Then eventually our old habit's going to pop up somewhere. Unless we start from the root cause, then it's going to come back up somewhere because we're trying to fight down the thing we've still got within us. I just want to keep it in. I need to look holy. I need to be okay because I'm meant to be for how Jesus called me to be. And so I'm just going to press it down until eventually it explodes. And it comes out somewhere and some way more than you would have ever hoped or wanted. It all comes out eventually. And so what we have to do is we have to be renewed in our mind. That's what the Bible says. That's another way of putting it. Change the way you think. Renew your mind. And that word renewal is interesting. Because it means there was something before. There was something that it started as that we have to bring it back to. Renew your mind. There is a way God intended us to be that we have fallen short of. And so it's dangerous to think that we're too good or too far in our walk to have to address something. If you said that in a marriage, you might not notice it, but over time, it's easy to get lazy. To just fall into routine. To forget to address the little things. And so what do people do in a marriage? They renew their vows. I remember my parents when they were going through a rough season in their life. I was about 10 years old. They were going through a rough season. They'd split up. I'd moved back to Melbourne with my mum. And my dad comes and they want to work it out. Fantastic. I have both my parents again. But I remember distinctly the 6-month period after they got back together. They were really intentional that we can't just start doing the stuff we were doing before because it led us to where we split up. And so I remember on their 10th wedding anniversary at church, they got us together and they renewed their wedding vows. They recommitted to the promises they made when they first got married. Because at some point along the way, things had started to not be what they were meant to be. And so we're making a stand here at the 10-year mark. We're going to start again. Raise it back to what we promised on that first day when we said, I do. And it's the same thing with us in Christ. There was a way God intended us to live. There was a promise that we were given for how things should be. But at some point along the way, things started to degrade. And it might not have all blown up at once. Maybe life's going pretty good for you, but trust me, it could be better. This is not what God wanted. And so what Jesus did on the cross was he invited us to come back to how things were meant to be. Back to that perfect relationship. Back to the original plan. But what we have to do is bring ourselves back. Allow him to transform us back to square one. Like a wedding vow renewal. When we renew our mind, we are bringing ourselves back to how God intended our ways of thinking and feeling to be. We want to bring it back to the way God intended, not just keep it down here. Because if we say, yep, Jesus, I'm following you, but we're starting down here, well, natural human nature is things start to slide. Life gets hard. We have a bad day. Our boss yells at us. Fine. We don't have enough money to pay the bills this week. Our kids yell at us. Our kids walk out. Whatever things start to slide. And if we're not careful, they can slide off a cliff. And so what Paul tells us to do, what the Bible tells us, what Jesus invites us to do is come back and start from where I intended you. And don't just do it once, do it daily. We have to daily renew our mind, pick up our cross, come back to where God intended us to be. So that when the enemy comes, well, I'm already where God called me. Enemy's got no power up here. And even if he can try and pull me down, I know, well, God, renew my mind. But it starts with the way we think and the way we act, the way we feel. Your actions are a result of what you think. That's what the Pharisees got caught up in with the Old Testament, is they were addressing the action and not the root. And here's Jesus saying, okay, you know murder is bad, but I'm telling you, you hate your brother, it's as bad as murder. Okay, you know you shouldn't cheat on your wife, but if you're looking at a woman down the street with lust and you're married, you might as well have already cheated on her. Jesus is calling us to not just address the action, it is to address the mindset. Address the habit, address the way of thinking, renew your mind to how things meant to be. And trust me, you might think you've got good habits, it can be better. You might think you've already got a good mindset, it could be better. And so what we have to do is we have to bring ourselves backwards, and it is dangerous to think that we get to a point where we no longer have to renew ourselves. I've been a Christian for 20 years. I already know how to do everything in the Bible. I already know how to live in God. I know what the Bible says. I don't have to address anything. And anyone who tries to tell me otherwise, well, they're not in the Spirit. Because I already know what the Spirit says. There is no point in our walk with Jesus that we cannot be changed by Him. There is always something that we can grow in. Change in, learn about the Father. And so what we have to do, no matter whether it's your first day with Jesus or it is your 40th year with Jesus, we can still be renewed in the Spirit. Because it might be good, but it could be better. It says this in Isaiah chapter 55. It's the Lord speaking. He says, "For my thoughts are not your thoughts, neither are my ways your ways, declares the Lord. As the heavens are higher than the earth, so are my ways higher than your ways, and my thoughts than your thoughts." God's ways are always going to be better than ours. Anything we could possibly conceive of. His thoughts are always going to be better than anything we could possibly think. And so what we have to do is not say, okay, I know this now. It's like, Lord, what do you say to me? Lord, how can I be transformed once more? How can I renew my mind once more? Because, Lord, I want to not bring myself back to the way that I do things. I want to bring myself back to the way that you do things. Back to your ways. Back to your thoughts. And so today, my challenge for you is this. As I invite the worship team back up. What are the things in your life that you haven't renewed in a while? What are the thoughts or the mindsets that you've been holding on to? Because maybe it's time to let it go. Say, Lord, have your way in my life. I want to be like that caterpillar. Transform me completely, wholly. Because what the Lord offers you, the joy and the peace and the grace that is eternity with Him, it cannot be matched by anything this side. Money's nice. Control is nice. But one day it'll all fade from view. And so what I want to challenge you with today is, will you allow the Lord to transform you once more?
Thanks so much for joining us. We hope you were blessed by this sermon. If you got something out of it, don't forget to give us a thumbs up or share it with a friend, and make sure you hit subscribe to stay up to date with all our latest messages. To give to the work of Authentic Church or to learn more about getting connected, you can follow the links in our description. See you next time.